Okay, so let's take a look at how you can create CouchDB server with Azure's virtual machine. So first thing, log into Azure portal. Next thing you can do is get access to virtual machine. You can create a resource or go to services. Then in compute you will find virtual machine. Simply have to check the category on the left for compute and click on that, go to virtual machine. Once you go there, you will be able to create a new virtual machine. Currently we have one setup. So here let's say I create virtual machine, and for this we will set few things up, right? For example, we have to first start with subscription, right? So let's go with free trial, then choose resource group, then let's name this couch VM dev, right? Now let's say east-US we picked up, we pick up standard security, right? Now in images we will see all images and we will try and search for our CouchDB server, right? So we can either check from database side or we can manually search for it, right? So CouchDB, we search within marketplace, right? So let's just check this from DevNami. We will do one thing, simply select it, and from there it will take us. Now here you can see we can make use of this one CPU 1 GB memory. Currently it is available for free services. Now here it will also allow me to use this SSH public key, right, where we have Azure user as username, and I can generate new key pair. Now next thing, I can choose the disk. Here you can have options for your images. For example, even as low as 0.5 GB memory suffice, so you can pick from that as well. Now the next thing is we'll have to think of this particular VM for x64 architecture, which is by default selected, and if you want to select any other, you will only have options at the time of image selection. Now next thing, we will move to disk, right? So here you can pick the standard STD, right? Then you can pick the key management to platform, then go for networking, right, where I can set the virtual network, subnet, public IP, right? You can also delete the public IP and NIC when VM is deleted, right? Now another thing you should do is make sure to add load balancer if your CouchDB server requires it. Most of the time it will take a lot of time to add load balancer because the server is good enough for most of the usage and there isn't much load like issues in earlier times when you deploy it. So you can also deploy it later. For that, you access networking section of your VM. Now go to management, and here you see you can add active directory along with identity options. Then you can also enable shutdowns. Next is monitoring. For monitoring, you can see option for alerts, diagnostic options. You can enable the diagnostic with manage storage account, and then move to final advanced tab where you can add the application and extensions along with cloud custom data that you want to load with the boot, right? Then comes option for your SSD if you happen to select that. Then comes host, right? Then capacity reservation and proximity placement group. So we are skipping this because we don't have any host for that. Also capacity reservation we are not messing up with. Let's go to tags. If you are using tags, then you can use that to organize and sort. And next thing is review and create options, right? So here we will be taking a look at validation part. Once it is validated, you may notice that it will tell you this validation passed option. You will also see the amount of price that you are going to pay per hour for setting up this. Let's click create so that it will go for deployment. Here we are going to download the key pair. The reason being, we can use this for Bastion, or if you are using, let's say, SSH with PuTTY on Windows, you can use this key for converting it to private and public key separately and use it for PuTTY's login option, right? So once you go through all of that, wait for deployment. Now that deployment is complete, I can go to the resource and let's take a look at our VM. So there are two methods to connect to this particular VM for CouchDB server. So here, first thing we can do is we can either use SSH option, we can also use Bastion. So I will come to the Bastion, which is easy. But before that, for those who follow PuTTY formula, they can take a look at this. We already downloaded the .pem file. Let me access that and I will show you how to create your private key. So go to your partigen exe and give it your keys, right? So here we have our .pem file, right? Now let's go to convergence, import, give it the .pem file, then save the private key as couchdev.ppk, right? We can also create one public file, so couchpub.pub, save that, right? Once you do that, next would be to basically use this within our party. Here I will have to give it the host IP address, so which is our CouchDB's address. So we will add that. Then here I will type in session as couch and I will save later. Before that, you can go to auth and then credentials. Here I will be adding that ppk file, right? Then come back here to session, save this with name couch and open. Click accept. Now log in as Azure user. Hit enter and it will log you in into CouchDB. Now there are multiple ways to access your CouchDB server, right? So one way is, let's say I have access to this public IP address, and let's see if I try and access this to 5984 port, let's see what it returns with. It should return you with the JSON data. Usually we make use of command prompt for that, and if it doesn't give you access from that side, simply go with command prompt. And here I have PowerShell, so I will use curl and then paste the IP address, right? And here next thing we will use colon 5984 and then hit enter, and there you go. If it returns with some message related to CouchDB's version, we have managed to access it from outside our prompt. Now meanwhile we'll let it go down, and here we will take a look at our Linux instance, right? So we can use lsp_release then -a. Let's see, it is making use of Debian 11 for the connection. We can use curl, then we can pass our IP, then use 5984. Let's see what it does this time. So it's like here it is saying curl failed to connect to this particular port after specific time it failed. So let's try to find out what could be the reason for that. we may also have to check out the option. So here you see the service accessible using host name, right? And we will have to check the option for Azure Docs, right? Because a lot of settings for accessing your specific database with the remote connection, it's possible if we take a look at the versions that we have, right? So here we will have to check the connect to CouchDB option. So 594 is the port. We will have to stop the server and do the editing of local INF file and change typical localhost to 000. Okay, and then we will have to restart, so you will now be able to access it. So that will be the thing, right? So curl then localhost 5984. So here 5984's initial IP is not given here because it says server -IP, where we will have to check our own IP for that, right? So minor changes like that would happen, so you will have to make those changes considering we are making use of someone else CouchDB server image, and this is not something you have installed from sudo apt like you do with typical Linux VM. So with DevNami you will have to make those changes. So I hope you follow this process and set things up.